Thanks for tuning in to As the Tire Turns podcast. Before we dive into this week's episode, I'd like to thank our sponsor, AME International. Tire professionals insist on AME. I'd also like to recognize the AACF. For over 65 years, the Automotive Aftermarket Charitable Foundation has stood by those in the automotive aftermarket industry and their families during life's toughest challenges. Since 1959, with the incredible support of industry partners, AACF has provided vital assistance to individuals and families facing financial hardship due to unforeseen circumstances, such as floods, earthquakes, storms, fires, catastrophic medical conditions, life-changing accidents, devastating fatalities, and more. AACF offers a straightforward application process and a quick turnaround time for those needing support during critical moments. Visit www.aftermarketcharity.org to access the application and learn more about how AACF can assist during times of need. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of our automotive aftermarket family. Support AACF today. And now, As the Tire Turns. The business has taken us all over, and I know for me, so just maybe each one of you, if you could maybe say one of these things where you kind of, maybe a pinch me moment or something where you're looking, again, I'm a relatively simple guy. I think we all come from humble backgrounds and so on, and, sometimes you look back and reflect and you think, how the heck did I get here, right? And so maybe if we could just start, Thomas, with you, in the business, something where you kind of look back and think, wow, like.
Yeah, I never thought I'd leave just the Rocky Mountain West. It just trickled everywhere I've gone. Some things that stand out to me. Never thought I'd be changing tires in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
That was amazing to see that area, and then in South America and Suriname to go to Dutch settlement there and live with at the mine there. And those are pretty cool exotic places I would never think of going. And then you finally hit your dream when you finally get to northern Canada and see the oil sands.
Yeah.
You've heard about them, but until you see that like waterbed road float in front of the haul trucks,
yeah,
you don't believe it.
Yeah.
And then when you see it, this is a whole other world.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the things that stand out to me.
Coming back from Fort McMurray one day, I accomplished something I think most pilots probably never accomplish, and that is I was in 5 airports in one day because everywhere I went, I missed my next. I couldn't get, like, there was direct flights, so it was Fort Mac, I think Calgary, Minneapolis. So there I should have been able to connect a Tampa one, but didn't. So then Minneapolis, Atlanta, Tampa. So I was in 5 airports, and they would time out, right? Unless they're doing little, puddle jumps or something like that. So that is an experience. And sometimes I think I can get to Europe from Florida quicker than I can Western Canada, right, with the connections and so on. So Tom, something that
and kind of talking about certainly the early days of Stellar Industries, all the travel that we were doing and getting out there and promoting the product, and think back at some of the trade shows. A lot of your state associations in the early days would have trade shows, and they're always on a Friday evening, Saturday, and a Sunday. So just some of the memories that go into some of those state trade shows, and we were kind of like a traveling family because you'd be in Arkansas and everybody's moving to Texas the next day. But you're speaking about airports and some of the delivery of service trucks. Delivered a farm tire service truck to a co-op in Colorado, and the nearest airport was Lamar, Colorado, which was just a few miles away. And checking into the Best Western the night before, and they said, well, I need a ride to the airport in the morning. They said, well, is the airport open? Well, I have a United Ticket Express out of Lamar. Okay, well, we'll get you there. So I get there, and I'm the only person. There's a gal there that opened the airport up for me. And I'm watching. I just said, I'm just curious, because I'm looking down the runway. I said, where's that plane supposed to land? Well, out there at the runway. She's looking another way. I said, we have an issue. There's like 4 horses standing on that runway. And she goes, oh, not again. So she goes, come with me. We jumped into her Ford Ranger, and we took off flying down this runway as I'm looking, and this plane is bearing down on us. And she goes, please don't abort landing, because then the FAA has to come in.
Yeah.
So they didn't abort landing. We got the horses off the runway, and I was able to get on the plane. And the pilot said, it's just one of those fun things that you just think about. It's like, wow, only in the U.S. can this happen and stuff. But,
open range, I guess, out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just those fun times, that you're traveling, and really the family, just like us, and I call it family because we got to know each other through that.
Yeah, well, I'd say it's a fraternity.
We all grew up.
And, one of my best friends is Dave Caruso, right? And I think there's some months I have more meals with Dave Caruso than I do with my wife, so it's the trade show circuit or
sure.
We do see a lot of each other and so on. So it does become a family, if you will.
Oh, absolutely. You bet.
Travis?
Well, we all traveled everywhere.
Yeah.
From Fort McMurray and to, the Atacama Desert of South America. But, early memory of traveling, I think when we first started coming here, Stellar was a small company, things were tight. I would actually take Dave's mom, Barb, grocery shopping, and we would buy bread and meat and cheese and make our own sandwiches. And your mom hates it when I tell this story. But I'd say, I picked up a bag of regular Doritos and Cool Ranch Doritos. And I said, Barb, can we get both regular Doritos and Cool Ranch Doritos? And the funny thing is, she thought about it. I'm like, yeah, I suppose so. But honestly, when I think of how did I get here, and it's almost every day, it's not a destination. It's how did I get here?
Yeah.
To watch this company grow, to have the pleasure of working with and knowing this Roslick family and Tom's family, and I've known Thomas for a decade, and you and your family, and
watch all the kids grow up together.
That's what I think of.
Yeah.
How did I get here?
Yeah.
And it's so awesome. It's just an awesome feeling.
It is very cool. Dave?
Well, I go back to a comment I made earlier about Dad and Gary and Jim when they started the company, wanting to have just a small company and do one thing, and then just see how it's blossomed. But not only just how the company's grown, but how the people have grown. When Dad became terminally ill in the late '90s and passed in 2000, and just before he passed, made the ESOP, opened up the ESOP for all the employees to participate. And at that point, the employees owned 27% of the company through the ESOP. Over the years, through stock buybacks and some of the older outside shareholders passing away, the ownership finally went to just over 50%. And then January of 2023, we made the transition to go 100% employee owned.
Yeah.
And my really pride is what we've all done, accomplished together as a team. And one thing I talk about a lot to the newer employees is having that ownership mentality. People like Tom and Travis and the people that have been there for a long time, they all get it. They understand what that ownership mentality is all about because it is all ours. And we have one of the gals, Nancy Horseman, in our accounting department. She's got a graph on her wall or window that says, how many millionaires do we have at Stellar Industries?
Yeah.
And I take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah.
And Don Heidemann, our CFO, tells a story. One time we had a banker come in, and the banker didn't know anything about Stellar Industries, and he said, "Okay, Dave, what do you make here?" I thought for a while, and I said, "Well, we make millionaires."
Yeah. Yeah.
And we do.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
We do.
Yeah, it's pretty good, and I think, was it Francis who coached? I remember you.
It was me.
Yeah. You tell the story of being early on, right? Kind of I'm trying to think. It might be one of the. It's not the Millionaire Next Door, but maybe Richest Man in Babylon. I think it's all about compound interest and just kind of good financial laws. Pay yourself first and so on. And I think that was instilled
It
in
was,
you.
and if it wasn't for Francis, I was just a 20-some-year-old kid, and we just started at Stellar, just started the 401, and we had 4 little kids at home. I mean, my wife just had triplets. And Francis would come and he said, we're starting this 401, and I want you putting in, through this big finger tapping on my desk, I want you to put in 10% of your check. I go home, I was telling Teresa, well, Francis and I talked today, and she's like, 10% of what? You know, I got 3 little ones crawling around, another one, and well, at the time, we lived about 30 miles away, and at lunchtime, I did what every 20-some-year-old does at lunch. I went out for free. But Francis didn't quit. He kept on me, and finally he goes, you know what? He goes, you need to at least put in 6%, and we'll match you to 6% of your check. And I said, Francis, I don't have it. I appreciate it, but I don't have it. He goes, stop going out to eat for lunch every day, damn it. Bring something from home. Yeah. I was like, that's $5 a day. I mean, and that's the story that started the whole thing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Looking back, right, and you tend not to look at your own accomplishments, but probably one of the things I'm most proud of is that with my own kids. And I had to wait, because it's not cool to take advice from mom or dad, until you maybe have a lesson. But sure enough, each of the kids, they'll probably be embarrassed at this if they listen to the podcast. But each of the kids would come in that first time when they had a job and would say, Mom or Dad, will you help with my taxes? And so I'd sit through, and of course Kelsey's the oldest, right? And she had went away to college and worked, at a grocery store, and she had a W-2. It was maybe $8,000, right? And I remember sitting with her, and I said, now how much money do you have? And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, how much money do you have? And she said, well, what do you? I said, in your wallet, in your bank account, like right now, right? How much cash do you have? And I don't remember what the number was, less than $200, right? And so I said, now, if you made $8,000, right? I said, if you made $7,000, would your life have been any different, right? She's like, no. I said, if you would have made $9,000, would it have been any different? No. And I said, well, look, honey, you got, if you make money, right, you get a raise, you just spend it and spend it. I said, put away. And so those kids are really good savers, right? And so I lucked out, right? When I was in my 30s, of course, started AME, and like I said, that is your college fund. That is your dad's retirement fund. I mean, that is everything, right? We went all in, and it's worked out, but there's no guarantees, right? So I said, don't do what your mom and dad did, right? Put it away, and it doesn't matter what your career is. You save early, and you have the benefit of that compound interest. It's pretty incredible. So, and actually, it just made me think of like one of your daughters works for probably one of the more known gurus as of late, right? Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey, yes.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. So all right, wrapping up a little bit here. We've talked a little bit about. I guess let's talk about the ESOP and just I guess to your point, making millionaires and so on, and just maybe some of the importance in that, what that's meant to you.
Oh, it's meant the world to me. I mean, it's what I've worked my whole career for is to better the people that have gotten us to where we're at. I mean, that's what the ESOP does, and it's I think a lot for the community. We've had. I mean, I get emails weekly, numerous emails weekly. Hey, want to sell your company? Want to do this? It's like, no, I don't want to do that because I want the company to prosper in Garner, Iowa.
Yeah.
I want the ownership to stay in Garner, Iowa. We could sell to some venture capital group, whatever else, and who knows? They might say, oh, you know what? I don't like traveling to Garner. I'm going to move it to Cleveland or Louisville or who knows where. And I don't want to see the city of Garner lose what is core to Garner, which is stellar industries.
Yeah.
As you said, Keith, we're right downtown Garner. Our main office building is right on State Street, which is the main drag in town. So we are a fixture of downtown.
Absolutely, it is important. We've got a business that's close to us that I've known, right? The fellows, they were second generation, and built a really nice business, and it sold, right? The guys cashed in, and certainly nothing wrong with that. And I was talking to some of the folks who were still there, 20-year employees, and one thing was memorable when you walked in. The person who greeted you had a title, and it was Director of First Impressions, right? But that was kind of their culture, right? They knew how every role was important. And so I was talking to them, and I was getting politically correct answers, about, no, it's good, and, there's some positive changes, and this and that. And I said, hey, up front, right, the director of first impressions. I said, is that placard still there, that title? And he kind of hung his head and said no, right? And listen, there's nothing wrong with, the VC guys or whatever that, come in and have the money and build it, but it's there for a purpose.
Yep.
And sometimes with that mentality, you make decisions. Right, when I sold to the Haltech guys, that was something that they prided themselves on as well. Not quite, maybe I'm going to start a controversy here, not as good as the sweet corn from Iowa, but they are also in the cornfield, right, their original plant. And even during the Great Recession, right, when work had slowed and their business, it was largely OE, and they had, Caterpillar didn't quit buying from them, but they quit ordering. Right, because they weren't making trucks and so on. They didn't have any layoffs, right? That was important to them, and so it's those good small town values, I guess. So, yeah. All right, wrapping up. Is there anything else that maybe you wanted to chat about or mention that we didn't cover?
No. I just want appreciation to the entire tire industry because Dad started out his career working for his dad in the tire shop, and then transitioned to IMT, where he was starting to build trucks and cranes and everything for the tire industry. Sold that, got out of it for a while, and then in 2003, when Travis and Tom came to business, when Dad bought a company, brought it into Stellar, all of his old friends from the tire industry, that fraternity you talked about, Keith, where everybody said, oh, Francis is back in the business. We're going to buy trucks from Francis.
Yep.
Yeah. And that fraternity never forgot the ties that Dad created in those early days at IMT, and we're really grateful I'm very, very grateful for all those people coming back and supporting Stellar in our early days and still supporting this company today.
Yeah. It is again, maybe that fraternity, right? And Tom, the association itself, right, has been fantastic, but
yeah, the Tire Industry Association has been great. Both Travis and myself both have served on the board. I was fortunate to be able to serve as president. It's just been a great industry. Love the industry. Good, hard-working people. It has a lot of pride.
Yeah.
And Travis and I have talked about this is that this is a career for us as opposed to just a job. It's been a career. And
sure.
I think that there's a difference there.
Yeah. And I would agree, right? Lots of passion, and I've met a lot of salt of the earth people. I'm surrounded by some right now. But seriously, I mean, it's been very good to me, and I guess that's I don't know how well I've done, right, giving back on the TIA board, but anything we can do to help serve and help those, and I always tell people I was. My other job was working at a grocery store, and then I was a full-time college student when I joined ESCO, going to school to be a physical therapist. And, went to the old retreading show, and in 1993 was my first show. And
wow.
Like you talk about, here, right? I was like, wait, I'm going to travel and get paid to go there? And that novelty has worn off a long time ago.
I get to stay in a hotel room?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, the travel's not as glamorous as what.
Yeah.
At least we're not sharing rooms anymore.
That's true.
Well, that's true.
We were there as well. Yeah, and that was, I don't know. We don't have any sponsors, so I guess I can speak freely, but I was going to say, I thought it was pretty cool to stay. I was staying at the Holiday Inns, but, the Holiday Inns probably maybe had their heyday in the 70s and 80s, and I was staying in the 90s when they were sort of on the on the decline, but still, nonetheless, lots of great memories over the years. And again, like I said, it's well, I got one more thing before. This is a southern goodbye, right? It's going to take longer. So I know you two gentlemen in particular, right, are flirting with not necessarily retirement age. You work as long as you want, but where you may begin to think about life after service trucks. And so
So call it, and Stellar's big on planning. We're long-term planners.
Yeah.
I'm a long-term planner, and there's whole other story that goes with that. But Thomas is a product of succession planning.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, when we were filming the new OTR training video in Garner, I've known Thomas for a decade or better. he was changing a tire, and I pointed him out to Dave and Tim and Tom. I said, if I could hand pick somebody to replace me in every tire, that's the guy right there.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, here we are.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not around the immediate corner, but you can kind of see it. But my family, I've got grandkids. They think fishing with Papa in his boat's the funnest place in the world to be. So that's kind of 2-3 years down the road, but got to plan ahead, plan accordingly.
Yeah. Tom, any?
Well, no grandkids at this point. Would love to. I'd love to be able to spoil
I can
some
drop a
grandkids.
couple off.
Okay.
Bale hay or pick rocks or something.
Love to. I've always been involved in a lot of charity and giving back.
Sure.
Different associations. So there are some associations. Farm Rescue is one that really appeals to me because it really ties into my farm background, and our friends at Titan Tire really sponsor that too. So it's helping farmers in need.
Yeah.
So that's something I really want to do. In the next few years and stuff, is get more involved and be charitable and stuff. So
Sure. Thomas, you're like me. We're going to work at least maybe another decade.
Yeah,
right?
at least. I would like to say a couple things though. I've been very fortunate in my career to have many good mentors along the way. You want to jump in the boom truck, so you look for the best guy that you could think of, and so you ride along with that guy. And to me, his name was Jeremy. He put me under his wing, and then I met a fantastic Bridgestone rep, a great engineer, and he cut his first tire in front of me. I'm like, I want your job. Like, when do you get there? He's like, I got to go to school. I'm like, well, for me, that's not in the deck of cards.
Yeah.
What do I got to do?
Yeah.
He said, put your head down and work.
Yeah.
You'll work your way there. And to that exact day, pretty close, it was 15 years later, I finally was a manufacturer's rep.
Yeah.
And I was cutting my own tires out.
Yeah.
But along the way, I learned so much and met so many cool people. And then now I have a new set of mentors like Travis and Tom and Dave to help me in this side of the tire industry and selling trucks. I get nervous as all get out. People ask about mechanical things in the truck. And I say, I don't know, but I know a tire can change. I'll talk tires, right? And so a new thing, so I need new mentors to help me in the mechanics thing. But coming to Stellar has been a breath of fresh air because everything's a go, go, go in the tire industry, go fast and that. But here it's more of a family aspect, and it's been welcomed with open arms.
Yeah.
And it's an ESOP, but it's a large family, very extended family that looks out for the best for our long-term family interests.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's some people say it's a lost art, maybe, right? Putting the head down, and millennials sometimes get a raw deal, in my opinion, right? I'm in a couple of different groups I mentioned, and I'll say, hey, millennial's not a 4-letter word, right?
Yeah.
Because they have this reputation of coming in and after 6 months saying, well, hey, I want this job, right? In advance. That some of that definitely happens, right? But we've same thing, kind of succession planning, and people don't believe me when I say I'm trying to make myself obsolete, right? Where you want to have something I've learned, right? The best companies, right, aren't dependent on one person in any particular role, right? So you try and share information freely and bring that next generation up, and so we have had some of the people that I want it now, right? But we have plenty of people who have also put the time in and grown and so on. So anyway, all right, Dave, any final words?
Gosh, no. I mean, this has been a great experience, Keith. Really appreciate you pulling us all together to have a little.
Well, I appreciate the schedules were touch and go. I'll say that Travis mentioned that I call it the shadow rule now, right?
Yes.
Because we've had this on the calendar twice before, and within a week or so, I'm like, hey, might not make it for this one.
No, you're kidding.
Really? So Travis says, Keith, I learned a long time ago, until I see your shadow, I don't count on you being there, which is fair enough. So even though we don't have the greatest lighting here, I said, somewhere there's a shadow, Travis, and I'm here. And for the record, I showed up maybe a minute or two even early.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, we're impressed.
No,
all right.
Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. I've liked watching all these.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it sincerely. And with that, we'll say thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time on As the Tire Turns. As the Tire Turns podcast takes our final break next week, join us the following week as we conclude our final episodes of As the Tire Turns.